Okay, this is an update to our video on the use of the program. Um, Having investigated more of the tables, and these again, I strongly urge you to be extremely careful using these tables. These are the calculation tables, but there are things that can be edited here. One of them is for us, this effect column. This is text. So the problem here is that with the Car Wars system, they had measurements of very tiny dimensions, like it was a half inch, a quarter inch, or a 1 inch effects because they were using a square grid on the board game. Because remember, Car Wars started as a board game. So when you're using miniatures, this business of having all these things 1 inch, half inch, 2 inch by 1 inch, half inch by 1 inch, is just not possible. It's ridiculous. It's not miniature conducive. So what I've done, is I've changed these effects to be to reflect the size of the base of the vehicles. And let me demonstrate exactly what that is about. And, well, why is it important? Well, the reason it's important is because a machine gun throws out a whole bunch of bullets. A machine gun isn't a single shell that's flying through the air and hitting something. It's a rapid fire rifle. Okay, so it's a whole bunch of lead or incendiary or armor piercing bullets, whatever they are, flying through the air. And because of the fact that of the nature of the machine gun, these bullets are all flying through a spatial, spherical, if you will, impact area. They don't impact all in the same spot because the nature of the machine gun causes all the bullets to be sprayed without moving the barrel even. The bullets just get dispersed. And so in the Car Wars system, this was represented by a space of like 1.5 inches by 1 inch, or 2 inches by 2 inches, or something like that. And so you had to put these little markers down, or these little, chips, or you had to measure it. In our case, we're going to have to measure it as well. Although we could put down a single transparent, if you will, marker, which is possible. But in our particular case, what we're going to do is we're simply going to show, or to make it simple for the players, that the space that's being affected is, let me get a pointer, is equivalent to the width of the stand. So if all the vehicles are generally mounted to the same, I don't even remember what this dimension is, doesn't matter. But the width of the stand is the area that gets hit. So let's take an example. Find me something. Okay, we'll use, as a matter of fact, we'll just use a die. Okay, so this is the die, and this being fired at by the machine gun. The area that's getting affected by the machine gun firing, now there's one machine gun, okay? In this particular case, it's the machine gun in front of the vehicle. It's firing forward, and the area being affected is the size of the stand right here. So you can take your vehicle, project it forward onto the area being targeted, and this area, all this space right in here, is what is getting hit by the weapon. Now there's two. So does it get double sized? No. Because they're both essentially firing, well, okay, let's assume they're both firing at the same item. I don't think you can even differentiate or select different targets. I don't know. Maybe you can. We know that the vehicles have a 45-degree arc. So let me get this stuff out of the way. Was that we were talking about the area being affected is equivalent to the width of the stand. So when you're firing at an object, the area affected is from the middle of the item, left and right of it. So the width of the stand is the area. Now, when you need to talk about something that is the depth, as well as the width, then we use the vehicle stand again. This would be the depth. So it's the depth of one stand. So you can just put your thing up there and say, okay, around this object, and that's essentially the same thing. It's about 1.5 inches, I think. So it's 1.5 inches by, an 1.5 inches, and that's the area. Doing it differently so you can see it better. It's surrounding the object like that, and then from the depth like that. So you're creating, an area around it. So when you're firing at something, in this case it's interesting because it's firing backwards, so that's fine. You'll have that width, and the depth is the same width. So it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, period. Now, there are some weapons that will have the width, but also be the length of the weapon. So take your base like this, and then where you're hitting, take the length of the stand and put it there. So you can see, you can put it on top, right? Now you could just as well do this with a little template that's the size of you can see that I use some cardboard or something. But you could use a template the size of this. It's the same thing. But this makes it convenient because this the size of the base. The stand is your hit, template. So I know you don't want to have to move the item, but okay, so grab another car and use that, or another vehicle. Or just like I said, make a template the size of that. It's the same thing. So that defeats all of the rigmarole, all the ridiculousness of the various sizes and stuff. I mean, everything is going to be either, one of these or two of these widths and depths and so on. And when it comes to different weapons, especially when it's not an area, see, that's an area effect. When it comes to a recoilless rifle, which this is representing, that's a shell. That's a single shell. There is no area. It's just hitting exactly what the object is you're aiming at, or it misses. And if it misses, depending on the load, then you may have an explosive concussion or something of that nature, and it would be, the width wide and also deep. So it would be, like this area. And that's in the way we've written it right now. We call that just a puff. So a puff is this area, equivalent to this width and this at the length. So, it's like this much of an area. That's a puff. So if you have a flame, or if you have a gas discharger and the notes say it's a puff, then the puff is just like that. That's all there is to it. And then there will be sometimes, okay, now smoke. Now you've got a smoke ejector in the back. Well, that's interesting, right? How does that going to work? Well, the way it works is like this. Your vehicle is moving. Assuming the vehicle is moving. And so when it moves, we'll start here. Okay? So when it moves and it has fired its smoke, the smoke goes out for the length of the stand. Now, the vehicle is continuing, not firing again, but it's continuing to emit that smoke for the turn. So you would go, so you start, if you're not doing the pulse movement, if you're doing the vehicles are all moving their entire distance in the turn. So this guy goes 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and the smoke would be all of that length of the stand behind the vehicle. So in some cases, it's going to be like a heavy smoke discharger. It's not just going to be the width. In other words, taking up the lane behind the vehicle, the lane. It may be twice that. So just turn the vehicle, and that's the size of the smoke cloud being ejected from where the vehicle was. So you're starting here. This is the front of it. And then you're moving. Okay, so this is the size now of this smoke. The smoke for a heavy is like that big, and it's being emitted for the whole length of what the vehicle's moving. And the same goes for mines, heavy-duty mines. They might just be that area dropped once, but for the whole turn, and it could just be, just one little puff of a base of an area, or it may be an entire length of things being dropped. At this point, we are saying that when you're dropping mines, it's just going to be a puff when you drop it. So if I have a mine dropper and I'm going to move, and I'm going to move my vehicle, and wherever it is I decide I'm firing, because you can say, okay, I'm going 4 spaces. Well, I'm going to fire, I'm going 4, I'm going to... Oh wait, I'm going to fire right now. So he fires at his 3rd space, and then the puff of mines lands right there, ding, 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 all on the road. And then he continues on his movement. So we need a little mine, icon, a little drop, a little symbol that we have to put down. So mines are one thing. Now spikes, same kind of deal. Are they going to be, when they drop out, tinky tinky tink all over the place? I think to be simplified, we would have another puff, right? Just another puff. But depending on the load, maybe it's 2, right? Maybe it's 2 or 1 base length of weapon that's been dropped. It could just be the width in the size, or maybe the width and the size, and also the length for how long it's been. It depends on the load of the mine. But you get the idea.